Everybody dies, don't they? But some come back.
Hey VC, Midge here, a guy in a hat who likes to talk about records. I now realise that we're getting very close to that strange season that we go through every year. That season where really horrible blood-curdling screams happen, usually when my wife sees the credit card bill for what I've spent on records in the past month. The time where we put our kids on the right path to obesity by sending them all the way around neighbours' houses begging for sweets. And also the time where we carve effigies of Janet Street Porter into pumpkins for some reason. That's right, it's Halloween. And what I thought I'd do is I picked out 8 of my favourite spooky records to share with you and get you in the mood for Halloween. So the first one is the soundtrack to one of my favourite horror films, and it's the 1977 film Suspiria. The soundtrack's done by the Italian prog rock band Goblin, and it's an absolutely killer soundtrack. This is an issue on the Daggered label. I think it's an Italian issue that I picked up, and the soundtrack is absolutely superb. When you watch the film, it's noticeable for 2 reasons. One is that Dario uses a huge array of colour palettes and really bright, disturbing colours, and it really sets the tone of the film. But also, it uses Goblin's soundtrack to great effect. I don't think I've ever seen a film where the soundtrack is so loud in the cut and so prominent, and it really does. It feels like another character in the movie. I know it sounds a bit pretentious, but it does feel like another character because it's so loud, it's so prominent, it really builds the suspense. It's an absolutely cool soundtrack. The title track especially, it's got like a music box type intro with a really eerie music box melody, and it sort of builds up into a heavy synth and rock track. And there's a heavy use of vocals all the way through it, whispered and screamed and shouted, and that also adds to the atmosphere as well. There's some unusual instrumentation as well. A lot of the sound effects in it are quite unusual, and there's sort of like a tubular bells type effect, or like a mallet hitting metal sheets, what it sounds like, and that really adds to the atmosphere as well. And even there's a bit of jazz fusion at times. It does get a bit funky at times, but like with Goblin soundtracks, they're all over the place, but they do work really well. And this is a gatefold issue. It's not the full soundtrack. That was only available on CD, but great gatefold with one of the victims, the first victims in the film. And obviously the film concerns an American girl who goes to a dance academy, and it turns out it's a front for a coven of witches, and loads of bizarre things happen. One of them is featured on the cover of the album, which is great. It's a bit where one of the girls falls into like a room full of not barbed wire, but like piano wire. It's really bizarre, really strange, and it's an absolutely great film as well, one of my all-time favourite horror films. So that's Suspiria by Goblin. Next up, this is my all-time favourite horror film. This is from what is it again? This is from 1978. Again, the soundtrack is by Goblin, and this is Dawn of the Dead. This was directed by George Romero, but also Dario Argento did also have a hand in this because Romero needed the finance to get the film up and running. And he turned to Argento, and the deal was struck that Argento would be allowed to have his own cut for the Italian market. So that's how the film was made. But it also led to a strange soundtrack mix for the film. So basically, this is, like I said, this is the Goblin soundtrack for the film. This was used in Argento's Italian cut. So this is a totally original soundtrack by Goblin, really atmospheric, dark and brooding. It's more like a band recording, because mainly horror films use like orchestral arrangements and things like that, but it's like a full band recording, so it's quite it's loads of different elements. There's like a honky-tonk piano track, there's a sort of like a country slide guitar track, but it's still really dark and brooding. Some more shots from the film. Great atmospheric soundtrack by Goblin. Great in a gatefold sleeve. And obviously this is the film where a bunch of survivors decide to take refuge in a shopping mall, and it's got like a great critique on how we are as people, in terms of a lot of the characters refer to why are the zombies still trying to get in the mall, and it's, you know, it's because it's instinct, it's what they used to do, it's where they used to go, and even though they're undead, they still want to go there. So these bunch of survivors end up getting holed up in this mall, and they get sort of like subdued by it, because obviously they've got free reign of all the shops and all the things within. So it's not just a horror film, it's got a great sort of like satirical view on society as well. So that's another reason why I enjoy it. You've got the front cover here with the zombies walking through the ice skating rink in the mall. And like I say, this is the Argento cut. This music was used in his cut of the film. In the Romero cut of the film, he used music libraries, mostly the DeWolf music library. So lots of cues, lots of different types of music that was sort of like rented from the DeWolf library. And he absolutely filled the film of these library cues. And there was a compilation issued on Trunk that had a lot of the DeWolf soundtrack cues on. So this is what was used in the Romero cut. So it's mainly just library cues, all different types. A lot of them's quite chilling. Obviously, most of them instrumental. It's most widely known for using Herbert Chappell's The Gonk. If you've heard it, you'll know it. It's quite a famous track. It became quite a famous track. And like I say, this is a compilation that Trunk issued that compiled a lot of the samples and the cues for the library music. Not all of them, because like I say, the film, I think the film used over 100 different music cues. So this is a great compilation that compiled a lot of the tracks that were used in the film. The great tagline from the film there: "When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth." And this is a great compilation on Trunk, but it was superseded recently. So this is another copy of the soundtrack I've got, and this is the most recent one. This one is on, it's actually on the DeWolf label. They've done it themselves, and this is another version of Dawn of the Dead soundtrack. But this has got mainly all the cues that were used in the film. Well, perhaps not all of them, but a lot of them. I think you've got 52 different library music cues on this from the DeWolf library, and this soundtrack is absolutely superb. It's got some great artwork, some of the scenes of the film. It's on coloured vinyl. If I can just get it out. It's a 3 LP set. Each vinyl is a different colour. And like I say, there's some liner notes from the film. I'll just get to it. Again, great artwork of the characters from the film. Extensive liner notes. And great triple fold out sleeve. Shots of them all. And like I say, this is a 3 LP set. All on different coloured vinyl. So yeah, that was actually done by I think Waxwork had a hand in it as well. But yeah, that's the most recent issue of the soundtrack. So I've got 3 different versions of it. Such a cool film. Absolutely love Dawn of the Dead. If you've never seen it, it's well worth checking out. There's loads of different cuts. I can't remember how many different cuts there are, but you can't really go wrong with Romero's or Argento's cuts. And like I said, they both have different approaches to the soundtrack. One's library and one's the Goblin soundtrack. So that's Dawn of the Dead, suitably spooky. Next up, I'm going to show you 2 albums that aren't soundtracks but are very spooky in themselves. The first one is a band from 2017, and they're called Children of Alice. And this is a collaboration between James Cargill and Rod Stevens of the band Broadcast, and Julian House, who was a graphic designer, and also he runs the Ghostbox label with Jim Jupp. So the Ghostbox label does lots of sort of like instrumental, what they call hauntology, basically sort of eerie sort of soundtracks, almost TV films from spooky TV shows you might remember as a kid, sort of like remembered, half remembered sort of soundtracks and things like that. So this is a collaboration between the Broadcast band and Julian House of Ghostbox. Ghostbox label's well worth checking out, by the way, if you're into that sort of thing. And this is sort of like a very strange sort of eerie type sound, not soundtrack, but like a soundscape. Julian House records under the name The Focus Group for Ghostbox, and this is a collaboration with Broadcast. He also did one called Witch Cults of the Radio Age with the band Broadcast when Trish Keenan was still alive. And this is a great sort of eerie, sort of spooky type album. It's sort of like it draws on Julian House's Focus Group type music, where basically he takes field recordings, snatches of sound, disorientating voices, all sorts of manners, like little snippets of melody, all kinds of things like that, and he puts them all together, and it sort of like becomes like a really disorientating, psychedelic type soundscape, really eerie, sort of disorientating in a while. It almost could become a soundtrack to a film. It's sort of really like it mixes sort of like folk elements with radiophonics and things like that. So it's a really spooky sounding sort of like a tapestry, if you like. This was released on Warp in 2000, electronic label Warp in 2017. Really cool mirrorboard sleeve. The first side is a 20-minute long soundscape called The Harbinger of Spring. And the second side has got 3 shorter tracks, Rite of the Maypole. So there's like a pagan horror type influence here as well. Like I say, it's really sort of a disorientating listen. Sort of like the soundscape changes every couple of seconds, so it's really disorientating, and it's just like it sounds really spooky, really sort of 70s horror influenced, and it's just a great listen if you like that sort of thing. It comes with an insert by Julian House. Like I say, he's a sleeve designer as well, and a graphic artist. He's done loads of album sleeves. And there's a little fold out insert here. So yeah, really spooky, really disorientating, well worth seeking out. So is his work as the Focus Group. If you like the idea of that sort of thing, check out the Ghostbox label. There's loads of sort of like really bizarre, spooky type soundtrack things on there as well. So that's Children of Alice, self-titled from 2017. And in a similar way, this is an album by Black Channels called 2 Knocks for Yes. And this was issued on, I've mentioned this label before because I absolutely love it, the Castles in Space label, which is a really small label that specialises in electronica and all sorts of like offshoots of that, synths, analog synths, lots of sort of electronic type soundscapes. And this is one that was issued, I think it was originally issued in 2015. This is the vinyl version of it. And basically it's sort of like, again, the best part of it is the side A, which has got a 20-minute sort of long soundscape, radiophonics again, called 2 Knocks for Yes, and it's called A Radiophonic Investigation into the Poltergeist Phenomenon. And it's really cool. It's sort of like your BBC Radiophonic Workshop, sort of weird sound effects and things like that, really disorientating, really spooky. And there's lots of tales and spoken word interviews with people who've supposedly seen sort of phenomenon and poltergeists and things like that. So it's sort of like, it sounds like an interview on a sort of really spooky sort of radiophonic type backing. and there's loads of different tales of furniture moving and, you know, scary things happening and chairs flying across the room and things like that. There's even a part where a priest is called in to do an exorcism, and that sounds quite funny because the priest sounds quite campy, to be honest, but it's quite amusing. But it is really spooky. And on the B side, there's 5 more tracks: Space Dome Ritual, Ghosts, First Sighting. Again, all sort of radiophonic type, atmospheric soundscapes, really spooky, really dark. But it's the A side that's cool. Like I say, with all these sort of like spooky interviews with people who've supposedly seen things and exorcisms and stuff. So that's great. That's Black Channels, 2 knocks for yes. It comes on, there you go, there's the chairs flying about, and it comes on a sort of glow in the dark type vinyl. That's really cool. And also it comes with a ghost report form, so even you can, you know, track your own sort of appearances of ghosts, and you've got shape, size, colour, brightness, transparency, behaviour, movements, any visible evidence, sighting conditions, light, weather, were you looking for a ghost, who saw it, condition of witnesses, and even a part where you can sketch the ghost, which is pretty cool. So you've got a ghost report there as well. So that's a really cool. You can check it out on the Castles in Space Bandcamp site, and that's Black Channels, 2 knocks for yes. Great album. Next up, we have 2 more soundtracks. These are both on the Trunk label, which is a label that issues a lot of sort of really old film soundtracks, really bizarre sort of soundscapes. That Trunk is a great label. I bought a lot of stuff on the Trunk label, and the next 2 are both on the Trunk, and they're both really cool horror soundtracks. The first one is from 1971, and it's a great film. It's like an old sort of like, it almost has the vibe of a Hammer horror to it, and it's Blood on Satan's Claw, and great front cover, as you can see. And this is a soundtrack composed by Mark Wilkinson. I don't know if you've ever seen the film, but it's like one of those not old time, but sort of like, you know, the set in medieval England, ye olde England, sometimes referred to as Yore. I think ye olde England is after Yore, but I'm not sure. Days of Yore could come after ye olde England. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. But the film is absolutely cracking. It's like one of those sort of pagan horror type stories where a small medieval village is slowly taken over by the devil, and it sort of manifests itself, bizarrely enough, as it's like an infection that spreads through the village, but all the people that are infected seem to have grown 70s bushes from porn magazines of the 70s. I don't know why that happens, but that's sort of one of the reasons why they can tell they've been taken over. And as you can see from the back cover shots, like any cool horror film of the 70s, there's plenty of nudity in it, and there's the devil himself there. Looks a bit like a wolf or something, but yeah, great soundtrack, and it's sort of like, it's quite pastoral. Obviously there's a lot of eerie sounds going on in it, and it's also one of those soundtracks that uses the I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but like it's the undead martineau, which is sort of like a piano type instrument. If you look it up on YouTube, it's really cool. You can see people playing it, and it's sort of like a keyboard that's got like a wire going along the front of it, and like a little box that you operate with your fingers, and it makes those sort of really spooky woo type noises. A lot of people said that it's the instrument that's used on the Star Trek theme, but I think that's been debunked now. I think that was mainly pitch voices, but I don't know, you can look that one up yourselves. But yeah, it uses that, so there's a lot of cool sort of like spooky noises and things like that in it. And like I say, if you get the chance to check out the film, it's a brilliant film. They don't make them like that anymore, literally. And it's yeah, it's a great sort of like pagan horror type film. So yeah, that's Blood on Satan's Claw soundtrack by Mark Wilkinson. Okay, next up is another cool soundtrack on Trunk, and it's from another one of my favourite horror films, and this is from the 1972 film Psychomania. 7 suicides, and they roared back as the living dead. Now, this is one of my all-time favourite horror films. It's a film that could only have been made in England. It's the most famous person in it is Nicky Henson, who, if you remember, was the lounge lizard in an episode of Fawlty Towers. He stars as the main biker gang in it, and it also stars the English actress Beryl Reid. And it's an absolutely brilliant film, really funny, although probably a lot of the times unintentionally so. And it's about a gang of teenage bikers who are up to no good. They tear around the city, they drive people off the roads, and the main biker gang leader's mum holds seances, and she has something to do with the coven, and she's a bit of a witch. And she holds a secret, apparently, to eternal life, and he's forever trying to get the secret out of her and her bizarre, sinister butler, Shadwell, I think he's called. And basically, he finds out the secret to eternal life is to kill yourself, but when you kill yourself, you have to believe that you're going to come back. And so basically, he tries to persuade all his biker gang friends to do it, and they're all a bit sceptical, but he does. He does kill himself. He drives off a bridge or something, I can't quite remember, and he does come back. But the twist is, when you come back, nothing can hurt you. You can only die once. And so he wreaks even more havoc around the village, and one by one, the biker gang that he's the leader of do the same. So they wreak havoc. The only person who won't do it is his girlfriend, who just won't do it, and she's sort of like the heroine of the film. But it's such a great film. It's really, really bizarre, really funny. The soundtrack is really cool. The soundtrack's by John Cameron, who was a jazz man, really. And he assembled a range of jazz musicians to make this soundtrack. But it's not jazz. It's sort of like a really cool mix of like psych and rock. And it's the title track, the theme is really sort of like heavy. It's got a really great guitar riff, and that sort of repeats throughout the film. And it's quite experimental as well in places. There's sludgy rock. There's sort of like there's a song that they sing round the biker gang who, when he's killed himself, they sing this round his grave, and it's sort of like it's by Harvey Andrews, a folk singer, I presume, who sings "Riding Free," and it's quite funny because all the lyrics concern them riding around, and it's quite amusing in itself. But like I say, the rest of it's like quite experimental. There's some music concrete passages in it as well, so it's quite an experimental score, but all the way through it's got like a heavy psych rock sort of motif that runs through it, and it's just a really cool soundtrack. Like I say, from a jazz man, it's quite cool. And one of my favourite scenes of the film is when the main biker gang guy kills himself, that his friends insist on burying him in the middle of a field, sat up on his motorbike. So God knows how long it took him to fix that hole. But the main reason is so it looks cool when he bursts out of it. But it's a really funny, unintentionally funny scene in the film because they insist on burying him sat up. But yeah, that's another cool English sort of soundtrack score, Psychomania by John Cameron, and that's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant score. Another great spooky non-soundtrack album is this one, and it's Lucifer's Black Mass. As you can see, a cool spot varnish gloss cover, some sort of weird pentagram on it, and there you've got the devil and a pentagram on the back. Basically, this was a 1971 album by the electronic musician Mort Garson, who made loads of great albums. He's most famously known for the Plantasia album, if you've heard of that. It's sort of like music that he composed on synths that was supposed to help make your flowers and plants grow. And this is the flip side. He released this album under the moniker Lucifer, and I think it's one of those sort of exploitation albums where it's sort of like a trend, you know, and a record company's got somebody in to do like a themed album around it. And obviously Mort Garson has composed this, and it's like a lot of instrumental pieces using analog synths and spooky sounds and, you know, various spooky type instrumentation, largely keyboard based. And as you can see from the titles, it goes from Black Mass, The Evil Eye, Exorcism, The Philosopher's Stone, not Harry Potter, fortunately, Voices of the Dead, Witch Trial, ESP, and it's just a great spooky sounding synthesizer album, like soundscapes again, and it does come with some really funny sleeve notes in it about each track by Dr. Jones, the author of 40 articles, book reviews, and who was a professor of comparative folklore and mythology. And there's some great sort of sleeve notes here describing the tracks. So you've got Solomon's Ring, the Magic Ring of Solomon, the source of his great power. He was wiser than all men, and there came people of all countries to hear the wisdom of Solomon. But then it also says that he transported an army on a 40-mile-long magic carpet and had over 1,000 wives. And that doesn't sound like a wise man to me, to be honest with you. And another great sleeve note is for the track Incubus. And apparently an incubus is an evil spirit in the shape of a man. Angels that were corrupted and who fell because of their lust for women. So apparently an incubus found welcome acceptance by many mortals. For example, a girl was pursued by an incubus, and according to a priest, she was always forewarned of his coming by a violent overexcitation of the sexual organs. And then, instead of having recourse to prayer, she ran straight to her room and threw herself on the bed. Well, enough about your mum. But this is a great album again. This is a reissue by Sacred Bones, who reissued a lot of Mort Garson's albums over the last couple of years, and this is on a really cool sort of clear with blood splat vinyl, which is really cool. But yeah, something a little bit different. But it's a great sort of spooky type instrumental album. So that's Lucifer's Black Mass. Ooh. So last of all, I thought we'd end on a fun one, and this is it's a new release actually. It's only just come out, but it's great. And this is by a band called Ice, and it's a funk band. You're probably better known as the Lafayette Afro Rock Band. And under the pseudonym Ice, they used to do lots of one-off singles and various other projects aside from their main name. And they did a lot of work for a French producer. What was his name again? Pierre Jaubert. So they moved to France and they had a lot of session work. It became the house band for Pierre Jaubert, and they used to do a lot of one-off singles and things like that. And they've all just been compiled on an album by on the Strut label, and it's called Disco Frankenstein. Look at that cover, that's fantastic. Just a fantastic comic cover. You've got the approved by the Disco Code Authority label on it, and it's basically a compilation of the singles that the Lafayette Afro Rock Band did under the name Ice, but they've got like a horror theme. I think this originally only issued in Japan in the 70s, and they've just reissued it. And you've got a great load of sort of like comedy type, well, not comedy, but funny type songs. Imagine if you like Parliament or Funkadelic, this will be right up your alley. So you've got City Beast, Disco Vampire, Godzilla, Creature from the Freak Lagoon. You've got Dr. Bizarre, Zake the Zombie, the Vampire Blob, and She-Devil. So you've got 10 tracks of really funky, really sort of off-kilter type funk tracks with a disco element to them. Lots of funny comedy voices like Parliament or Funkadelic would do. And it's just really funky, really cool, really funny in places, and well worth checking out. And it also comes on this sort of really cool blood splot pressing. So you've got your blood splot in the middle of the vinyl there, and it's just a really cool, groovy, funk type compilation with lots of funny elements. And like I say, absolutely great cover, and yeah, well worth checking out. And that's it. So that's the end of my spooky Halloween choices. So I hope you've enjoyed that. And remember, keep your crucifixes handy for the big night. Turn all the lights off. Hide all your candy. And nothing else to say but, oh!